unprecedented amounts of rain to the New York City area. California had the second largest wildfire in state history last year, I should say, and Texas was temporarily frozen amid a rare winter storm in February. Could 2022 bring even more devastating events? Joining us now, a friend of the show, Deborah Brosnan, president of Deborah Brosnan and Associates, an international scientific consulting company providing solutions to environmental risks and climate change. Deborah, welcome back to the show. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
Let's start with the basics
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Why is climate change making unprecedented events feel like normal, even colder weather events like what we saw in Texas last year?
Oh, I think 2021 was a year of reckoning for all of us with climate change because, as you described, Texas pretty much froze. We've had wildfires, second largest wildfires in California, over 2.5 million acres burned. The Pacific Northwest was melting, roads were melting, we had a heat wave. And just recently, we had wildfires in Colorado. I think 2021 is the year when climate change really came home to roost for everybody. And even the IPCC came out and said it basically that everybody in the planet is experiencing climate change. And I believe with the COVID situation with COVID and climate change together, that we are becoming more aware of these events, and we're becoming more aware that it's not just our neighbors, but it's each of us individually are experiencing these. So from a scientific perspective, what happened in 2021 was not unexpected. It is becoming the new normal. And there's a lot of data showing that it will become the future. And in fact, we will even get more intense storms, more hurricanes moving up into the mid-latitudes. So yes, it is becoming the new normal.
The past 2 years have been among the busiest on record when it comes to Atlantic hurricane season. Deborah, do you believe future seasons will bring even more hurricanes, more violent hurricanes?
I think what we are looking to see is that we will have not even so much more hurricanes, but the hurricanes that do develop will develop faster and they will develop stronger. So we're expecting to see basically a more rapid development of the storms that do come into play. And as much as we're going to see more of them, we're going to see stronger ones.
Any other weather trends you foresee across the country in our world this year in 2022? And of course, I have to ask how you think climate change factors into it.
I think climate change is a major driver in what we're seeing. It's not just that these storms are occurring, it's that we're having storms and events occurring in places where they never occurred before and at a frequency that they never occurred before. I mean, Ida, to all intents and purposes, should not have had the impact it had on New York, and yet it was huge. There were some severe floodings and unfortunately deaths associated with Ida. So for 2022, I think two things. One, we will see more wildfires. We will see wildfires in areas where we haven't seen them, and we will see what look like strange weather patterns emerging. The other thing, on a positive note, is that these weather patterns are affecting all of us, and I believe the world is now coming to grips with the fact that we're all in climate change together, and we're seeing an alignment. So, in as much as we'll start to see these events happen, we will start, I believe, to see a much greater response across sectors, both in individual communities, among governments, and in private sector, because it's really brought us together 2021 in knowing that the only way out of it is for all of us to work together and find solutions across the board. And I believe we'll see a lot more of that in 2022, which is, to me, very hopeful and very positive.
You believe 2/3 of the planet is under an effective, quote, death sentence and without the resources to manage the climate change transition. Deborah, what sort of timetable are we looking at here?
Oh, for some, it really depends on where you are in the world. I think for some of the northern areas, we have more time. More developed areas, we have more time and more resources to start to adapt and mitigate. For these small island developing states, particularly the low-lying states, Marshall Islands, islands in the Caribbean, they really are in quite a bad way already, and there's a huge urgency. We're not talking about 100 years, we're talking about perhaps decades at the most. They're already seeing the impact, they're already seeing their beaches getting lost, they're already having storm surge coming in, experiencing more droughts. What we're going to start seeing in many of these islands is an increase in climate refugees. So these are, if you like, under a death sentence right now. It really is, it's quite drastic for many of these areas.
Deborah, I have less than a minute with you, but I want to ask, when it comes to action and accountability, why should we look to the private sector more than the government, in your opinion?
I don't think it's an either or. I think the government can set policies and can create the space for the private sector in which to act. But fundamentally, the private sector has resources, it has the ability to make decisions, and it is going to be directly affected by climate change. And the consumers that use all these private sector goods and services are also being affected directly. The private sector has both a moral obligation to step up, but also a business obligation to step up. They will lose business if they don't take action. It's as simple as that.
Deborah Brosnan, president of Deborah Brosnan and Associates. We always enjoy your content, your experience, your time, Deborah. Thank you so much.